Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. Just a couple housekeeping items before we get started. I just want everyone to know that this session is being recorded. And also during the session, we ask that you just stay on mute unless you would like to ask a question, and then you can obviously come off mute and ask your question of Jessica, or I'm also going to be monitoring the chat throughout our discussion. So also feel free to surface any questions in the chat, and then I will obviously bring them to Jessica's attention. So let's get started. My name is Liz Rich, and I am the Director of Strategic Partnerships and Initiatives at the Feliciano Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation at Montclair State University. Thank you for joining us for today's workshop, which is part of a larger Future Founders series that we are having, where we're having conversations around topics that really impact budding entrepreneurs. So from things like how to effectively pitch your business all the way to how to drive innovation within your business. So today we are so excited to hear from Jessica Maarek, who is a social media maven and founder of Red Root Marketing. And today, Jessica is going to talk to us about how to be pitch perfect with your social media marketing. So without further ado, Jessica.
Yeah. Well, thank you all so much for having me. It's nice to meet you virtually. Normally, in a normal time, we would have been doing this all together in the same room, but um, we're all used to the virtual thing now. So, one thing I would like to highlight today, the talk I'm going to give today, and it can be very conversational too. I want you to jump in and please feel free to ask me questions, but I'm also available after this talk. If you have specific things about um, the social media that you're doing for your business or your startup or your pitch, please feel free to email me and we can have a discussion that way. If you have specific things about, things that you're thinking about for your pitch. So my talk today is a little different than what I usually talk about because my audience is usually small businesses in North Jersey, and I work with a lot of nonprofits in this area as well. But I am going to talk to you a little bit about um, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our philosophy and our origin story. So let me share my screen uh, because I think how I started my business, which I did not actually mean to start my business. So all of you are ahead of me in the fact that if you're doing your pitch for this pitch competition, you actually have a business idea. I did it the opposite way. People were asking me to do things, and then I created my business from that. So I'll tell you a little bit about that story because it was a little bit of a strange way to do it, although I think some people do start their businesses that way out of a need. But what was interesting was that I, over a very long period of time, developed this philosophy that we use today with our clients and with all the learning and education that we teach with our social media marketing. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that today. And again, if you have questions, I won't be looking at the chat box because I have a hard time multitasking like that. But Liz has promised that she will keep a lookout. So, and if not, just if you have something and you want to unmute yourself and ask the question, please feel free to do that. So I did want to start with our origin story because I think when I tell this story, I think people think it's pretty interesting and maybe it's fortuitous, how it developed. But I'm proud of it because um, I was able to really. I was very lucky because I was able to develop my business very slowly, and I really could see what worked and what didn't work and what I was good at and what I saw value in. Um, and so I think that was really the key to at least part of the success that Red Root enjoys. And so let me tell you a little bit about that. So 12 years ago, I had already had several careers, and I had never in my entire life taken a marketing class. I didn't actually even know what marketing meant, and I wasn't interested in it at all. I wasn't one of these people. I wasn't an entrepreneur. I didn't always want to own my own business. I loved working for small companies here and there, and I loved being on teams. And I didn't always, I didn't, I never said, "Oh, I wish I could work for myself." I just wasn't one of those people. And but I had had my kids, and they were going back to school, and I wanted to go back to work, and I needed to go back to work, and but I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I used to go to this little coffee shop. In fact, I still go there, and you may have heard of it. It's the Fine Grind in Little Falls. A lot of Montclair State students used to go and study there and use it as their office and their dorm room, and hopefully we'll be able to again soon. And I became very friendly with the owners. It's a family run business, and they had just moved to a slightly larger space, and to they needed to bring in more regular customers. They had their loyal following, but um, they weren't doing the volume that they needed to. So, because I had become very friendly with them, and I was always bringing in new people and introducing them to the Fine Grind because I loved it so much, I was actually already curating a little bit of a new um, following for them. The owner, Rhonda, she asked me to do events for them. And I didn't really have any experience with this, but I figured, you know what? I have nothing to lose. And the one um, stipulation was that we had zero marketing budget. So she could pay me a little bit, some peanuts, and obviously free coffee all day long. And but we had zero marketing budget. And at the time, I didn't really see that as a pro or a con. I thought it was kind of interesting, but at the time it didn't really I didn't feel like it was holding me back. So I just jumped into it and I said, okay, what can we do with this? What do we need to do? How do we bring people in? Once they're in, it's up to Rhonda to figure out how to keep them as a loyal customer. But it was my job to get new people in. And I used anything that was at my disposition and anything that was free. So, it was a real guerrilla marketing campaign. And I used at the time social media, and what was available at the time was Facebook and Twitter. And I use a lot of local print publications because at the time those were pretty vibrant. They're less so now, and we have more online news outlets, which are great. But at the time, there was a lot of print. And so I was sending in press releases, and I was sending in photos of our events. And I was also scanning those online and also those print publications to look for people in our community that I could bring in. And what we had to offer was a venue, was a place where they could find a new audience. And what they were offering was some kind of education, some kind of interesting seminar or something, art or book signing or something, and also bringing in their audience. So if they had a captive audience and we had a captive audience, we were bringing those audiences together. And that's where I slowly started to see the value in connections, in community, in developing relationships and creating long lasting relationships. And it really turned into something quite special, and it was very effective. So we were able to grow the social media. And then when Instagram came along, of course, we jumped on that, and we were able to grow the social media. We were able to highlight local members of the community, business people, artists, authors, vendors. I mean, you name it, we tried it, and we brought people in, and some things didn't work. And some things worked fabulously. And it was such a learning curve for us. It was so interesting to figure out, what are people looking for in the community? How do they need to be supported? And what can we do to do that, and how can we collaborate so all of us are benefiting? And so that's when other small businesses were asking if I could do the same thing for them. And that's really where my business where I decided to start my own business. So I branded Red Root Marketing 8 years ago, and I've been doing this ever since. And there have been a lot of variations of what I do because over the years, like I said, I have needed to evolve. I would come up with services that I was sure people were going to want and need and love, and that would fall flat. And then I would come up with a service kind of on the fly because a client asked me for it, and then everyone wanted it. So I I think the things that allowed me to grow my business and evolve and stay relevant and add value to my clients and to my community is that I really stayed flexible and open minded. I think that's a really big thing when you're an entrepreneur. I think that you need to shift and pivot and so obviously you want to stay true to your branding and your ideals and what's at the heart of your brand, um, but being able to evolve and change and learn has been really instrumental in growing my agency. So I want to talk to you a little bit also about our philosophy about social media. And I'm going to be delving into this a little more because I think we approach social media marketing a little differently than um, a lot of other businesses or agencies. And I will also, my next slide, we're going to talk about the difference between social media and social media marketing. I feel strongly about kind of pinpointing that. But before I discuss that, I wanted to talk a little bit about how we approach social media marketing. And because you could say it's all about content creation and about communicating your branding and your messaging and how you're addressing your customers' pain points. But what we do is before we think about the content, we flip that on its head and we think about our audience. And we think very, very deeply about the audience because you can be putting up content that you think represents your brand. But if you're not putting your audience first, then your content may not make that connection and it will fall flat and it will just be content that you have online and it's stagnant and it's not going anywhere and no one's interacting with it. So I'm going to actually give you a little bit of a technique. I'm going to give you a glimpse into a technique that we use here at Red Root Marketing that we've developed over the years, that is proprietary to Red Root Marketing, but it's actually a very common marketing concept and tool. It's audience segmentation. So we've taken that and applied it specifically to social media, and it's really just a way to find out where your audience is, who you need to be following, who needs to be following you, and how do you connect with them. Once you have a really good idea of who your audience is, then you start to create your content because then you have a really, really good idea of who your audience is. Um, and we'll talk about that, the fact that you, for your pitch, need to talk about who your ideal clients are. And if you say everybody, then you're talking to everybody and you're talking to nobody, and it's not going to resonate. You need to be really specific about your audience, and you can have several segments of your audience that you're talking to. But the first thing you want to do is drill down um, into who and what are the types of clients that I want to be bringing to my brand. Because I can tell you from experience, I wasted a lot of time, and I shouldn't say wasted because I don't think anything is ever really a waste of time because you're always learning. But I spent a lot of time early when I created my business getting leads that were not the right leads for me. So some of the leads that would come in would be great. And I'm like, yes, I want to work with these people and I can offer something of value to them. But a lot of the people that that were coming to me, they were not the right people for my business. We were not the right fit. And what I learned over these many years is that the better you get at communicating what you do and what pain points you're solving for your clients or your customers, and the better you understand who you're trying to bring on, the better leads you're going to bring in. And the more people who need your product or your service are going to come to you. And you're going to spend less time turning people away and more time bringing on those really valuable leads. So just as we're going to talk about a couple things. We're going to talk about social media versus social media marketing. We're going to talk about your brand, and we're going to talk about that community online. So how do you find that audience? And I'll give you that technique to do that. And then what are the important social media marketing points that you want to include in your pitch? So we'll talk a little bit about that at the end. So this is social media versus social media marketing. So social media, you all do it. We all do it. It's when you're scrolling and you're looking at things and you're staying in contact with your friends and you're commenting on things. It might be political, it might be fun, it might be social. Um, that's social media. And that's kind of that just, endless scrolling and laughing and liking videos and all of that. When you go online, and I'm going to use this word that I think is very important. When you go online intentionally, that means you're spending time and it's a part of your business communication and a part of what you're doing for your business and curating your audience and communicating your service and your product. That is social media marketing. And so what I do, and I'm on social media all day long because this is my business, and I work with my team, and my team is on social media all day long. But what we're doing is very intentional. It's not going on and liking friends' posts and looking up what friends are doing and looking at things. What we're doing is we're looking for content for our clients to repost or to comment on. We're looking to interact with our community. We're looking for new accounts to follow. And once you can silo that type of activity where you're really targeting your business growth, the better you learn to do that, the better and more effective your time on social media is going to be. So I want you to really start to think about that, there's personal and then there's business. And I think that's a really important thing. And so, give yourself, if you say, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to scroll through and look at my friend's stuff, or I'm going to interact personally in the evening, um, great. But give yourself some time, some kind of time management where it's like, okay, from 10 to 12, I'm just online for my business. And that can be a really effective way to find content and to interact. Another term I wanted to talk about is community, because what we do here at Red Root Marketing, we call it hyperlocal, community driven social media marketing. And I know that's a mouthful, but all of those words are so important to us. So, first of all, it's that hyper local aspect. And when you're thinking about your product or your service, that you're going to pitch, I urge you to really think about your community. So, that can be your physical geographical community, the community you live in. So think about if your service or your product has a geography. Some are very specific, and some are can be nationwide. If you have a product that you're trying to launch and it's nationwide, then that that's kind of you know um, your stomping grounds. But if you have something that you're only offering to this, people in these couple towns or in this community or this not community, county, or this state or the tri-state area, think about geolocating yourself, um, and curate that community so you have a geographical community, but you also have an online community. And again, I'm going to give you a tactic. That's when we talk about our community map, that you'll figure out who is that community. But I want you to really think about who that could be. And so there's the hyper local aspect. There's the community driven. So when I say community driven, I mean that you're not only just putting up content for the sake of putting up content and having it out there. I'm talking about it being a two-way street, and you're not only putting up content, but you're interacting with other accounts' content and supporting them and rallying around others in your community. So I don't know if anyone has any questions right now. Um, Please let me know if there are any questions. If not, I will keep going, and you can save them till the end as well. So this is a slide that I'll just leave you because Liz can send out to everybody as a PDF, this presentation. But these are clickable links, and these are just some local accounts that we think do a really good job of connecting with their local communities. And I want you to check them out, follow them, see what they're doing. And it wasn't just about accounts that do great content, because there are tons of accounts like that. It was about accounts that talk to the people that come to their page, that are interacting with their surrounding areas and other people in their community. So try to look at them and see what you think, um, of those accounts, and see if you agree with me that you think they're doing a good job of connecting with the people around them. All right, so this is about how you're going to think about your branding. And I don't go too much into this. It's really just the pointers that I've learned along the way. I'm not a branding expert, but I've worked with branding experts to get my logo done. And they actually created a branding brief. So I talk about that here. Um, and this might be really helpful to you when you're doing your pitch, because your branding is how you're going to present yourself online and on your social media. And it's very important to make your accounts cohesive. So having a cohesive look across all of your social media platforms, because I don't know if you've ever experienced this, where you have gone to someone's Twitter, a business's Twitter, and then you go to their Instagram, it looks completely different. And then you go to their website and it looks completely different. That's actually causing a lot of friction. And so people are going to drop off, because if it's confusing to figure out, is this the same brand? People, once you've got them confused, you're not going to get them to your call to action, which is buy whatever service you're offering, or look at, this page, or read this article. So it's very important that your branding online is cohesive, but it should also evoke an emotion, and it should um, convey what you want your audience and your ideal client to feel. So, if you create some kind of brand brief, and it doesn't have to be fancy, it can just be a Word document, or it can be, a PowerPoint, but have a couple pages about talking about, what does your brand represent? Come up with some keywords. How do you want people to feel when you see your brand? How do you want your photos to look? You should have a unique branded feel to all your photos. That doesn't mean all the photos have to be the same, but do you want them to be crisp? Do you want them to be soft? Do you want them to be bright and colorful? Do you want them to be subdued? So think about that. And then think about your voice and have that be a part of your brand brief. Are you going to have your voice in your captions and your videos that you do be playful and whimsical? Is it more of a serious feel? Um, is it conversational? Is it matter of fact? So think about those things, and think about how you want to convey um, your brand, and how people feel when they see it, and what they want that takeaway to be when they come off of your page. How do you want them to feel? And what do you want them to know about you? So
Can I
this is
actually
something.
ask
Oh,
a
yeah, go ahead.
question? Because this brings up something that I feel like personally I've struggled with a little bit when, managing social media accounts for different brands, is that you try out a voice and then you're like, oh, this isn't working. Like it's just not gaining any traction. And then I'm like, well, if I change it, is that inauthentic? Like, so struggling with that voice piece of it, like what is my personality going to be coming through this?
Liz,
Um,
that is such a great point,
Thank you.
because you you should allow yourself to be flexible with it and to evolve. So I think starting with a voice and trying it on for size is such an important thing to do. And it's not inauthentic to change. And I mean, if you look at a brand's um, very early Instagram posts, and if you go really far back, you can a lot of times see an evolution in what their photos look like, how their captions sound. And listen, you can always take those down. If you feel like, oh my gosh, we've moved so far away from that, like I don't even like them, archive them, delete them. Um, but sometimes it's fun to keep them up there because it's okay to change. And I say try it out. And because, listen, I've worked with clients before who have a fear of putting anything up, and that can really, really be a detriment to your brand. They work so hard on crafting that one caption that's perfect. And I'm going to tell you, we're not writing the great American novel here. Okay. This is not something, and unfortunately, it's not something that other people are going to spend a lot of time reading and dissecting. Now, obviously, you want it to be professional, you want it to convey your brand, you want it to be, the grammar to be perfect. I'm not saying you want it to be slipshod, but you don't have to craft the perfect caption every time. You know, so play with that voice. Um, and I say go for it instead of holding back. Go for it. See if it picks up some momentum. See if people react to it. And if you go back and cringe, get rid of it. If you're like, oh, that's not great. It's not my best work. That's okay. My philosophy is do it and get out of your comfort zone and put it up and play with that voice, because if you don't do it, you're never going to find it. And some people just come online and they have their voice, and some people it will take months or years to really find that stride, but don't not do it because of that. Me, it took a long time. I mean, I felt very awkward for a long time putting up posts and putting up my photos, and I did not like it. And it still, to this day, does not feel 100% comfortable to me. I can do it much better for my clients than I can for myself, but I embrace that um, kind of discomfort, and I invite all of you to embrace that comfort. If it feels slightly uncomfortable, that's okay. I say keep doing it, and you will eventually get there, and you'll feel you'll see what feels right after a while. And again, I do think doing this type of foundational work where you're thinking really deeply about your brand and your voice and what you want to convey and getting into the heads of your clients, all of that foundational work is going to set you up for more success on your social media. If you're just throwing stuff up there and not organizing yourself and not writing your content strategically, it's going to take you a lot longer. Whereas if you organize yourself and you lay out the things that are important for your brand, you're going to get there much quicker. And just as a statement for this oneliness statement, it's actually a branding exercise that we did with the branding expert that we worked with a couple years ago. And it's actually a really fun exercise. And again, this will lead you to what is at the heart of what you're doing and your business. And so you talk about the what, the how, the who, where, why, and when. And what that does is it gives you this kind of statement that allows you to really focus on the things that you're doing and the things that you're trying to convey on your social media and on your website. When I say social media, it's really anywhere that you have an online presence. It can be your Google page, it can be your website, any of those things. So, our oneliness statement was the only marketing agency that offers world class business strategy and social media marketing to passionate business owners and entrepreneurs in our local community who want to engage with, delight, and understand their customers in an era of digital marketing innovation that leverages the commercial power of small towns. So, I mean, that's obviously very kind of, that's not how we're talking about ourselves on our social media, but it's at the foundation of what we're trying to convey post after post after post.
So before you move on, do you want
Yeah.
to, there's a couple questions that
Oh,
came.
yeah. Go ahead, please.
So first question from Judy, do you consider LinkedIn to be social media?
Absolutely. And I think LinkedIn today is very important. Um, I love how they've changed because I thought it was a pretty stagnant platform a couple of years ago. But as they've made it more like Facebook, um, but they didn't bring along the bad things of Facebook, I feel. It's still a really professional, supportive arena. I think it's great. The one stipulation I do have is I think it works better as a one-on-one networking, so your personal page. So it's the opposite of Facebook. I don't think the company pages, at least I maybe haven't leveraged them to how they need to be used, but I see the one-on-one networking aspect of LinkedIn as a very, very valuable tool. Um, it will come down to what you're trying to do and what your brand is, but for a lot of small businesses, it can be a really powerful tool to connect with people and to convey again what your brand is. So I do get it more into that. I don't really get into the social media platforms and which ones you should be on today. But when I do the workshop for the winning teams sometime later in the spring, we will delve into that. But I talk about that a lot on my social media. Where you should be, what are the right platforms for you, and with my online course. Um, I talk a lot about that. But yeah, I think LinkedIn is absolutely a social media platform, and I think it's a very important one.
And then there's another question that I think is a great, just kind of general question about, you know, I think, and people run into this a lot. Somebody used to have a social media account and, um, due to a lack of interaction and interest, and not really feeling inspired to post much, it's just kind of floundering. So how do you sort of reinvent yourself and start anew? And I think you talked about that a little bit earlier. Just you just have to start, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, I think fundamentally, I think a lot of people, again, it goes back to that fear like, well, I already put this out, so should I change? Is that inauthentic? What you have to look at social media marketing as a long-term strategy. This is not something that you put a little effort into and immediately get results. Unfortunately, and that's why I think a lot of people experience a lot of frustration with it because it is a continuous drain of your effort and time and creativity. I mean, it doesn't have to be a drain. It can also be a really nice outlet for those things. But I think a lot of people think, well, but I already did a bunch of posts. Shouldn't I be getting calls, to buy my service or to hire me, um, or to buy my product? You have to really look at it long term because the benefits of social media marketing are you're always whatever you're adding is continually um, increasing your brand visibility online. So your organic SEO, how people are going to find you. And just to give you an example, I mean, I started doing now many years ago a really consistent posting of my own brand, so Red Root Marketing. Maybe 5 years ago, I got really serious about it. And it took me about a year and a half for someone to finally call me and say, and I always ask, where'd you hear about me from? Or where'd you see me? How'd you hear about me? And it took me a year and a half after doing serious social media marketing efforts for someone to finally say, I found you online. So it wasn't a referral, it wasn't someone I already knew, it wasn't a client I had worked with. It was just me putting content online. And that includes a blog on my website and refreshing my website content, but it was a lot of my social media. It was a lot of, Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. So, you know, I just say move forward, continue. It can be frustrating, but I think also a really nice way to rev up what you're doing and to get a little energy is to talk to somebody else about it. Get fresh eyes on it. I think just brainstorming, I know when I talk to people, either when I'm doing consulting or I'm just talking to a friend, uh, they can get pretty pumped up because even just me saying something like, "Oh, I noticed that you do these types of posts. You know, I'm interested in this aspect of your business. How come you don't do posts like this?" And it's like all of a sudden the floodgates open and they're inspired and they have lots of things to talk about. So I just say move forward and continue and talk about it and play with it and be playful with it. I think that's the most important thing. Um, and brainstorm. And I was going to say something else, and now it dropped out of my head. But I hope that answers your question. I'm not sure if I answered that question satisfactorily, but
Yeah, I think you did.
are there any other questions?
No, not direct questions. So
Okay, perfect. All right. I'm going to talk a little bit about what I was talking about, the community map. And this is the thing that we have over the many years developed, and it has been so instrumental into how we approach our clients and our own marketing, our own social media marketing, um, and really how we grow these audiences. So what I like to say is, and if you've heard my talks before, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but social media marketing, to me at least, is 50% high quality content that you're putting up. And if that's all you're doing, you're only doing half the job. The other 50% of social media marketing is the engagement. It's you spending time on those accounts, following new, curated, targeted uh, accounts, new accounts to follow, and liking, commenting, sharing, supporting, rallying around those others, the others in your community. And so this is where we figured out, well, how do we do that? How do we figure out? So as you know, when you're doing social media personally, you just look up your friends that you want to connect with. So you say, well, I want to connect with Liz Rich. So I look her up on Facebook and I send her a friend invite, you know? But when you're talking about social media marketing, that's not how you're approaching it at all. You're not directly approaching the end users or your potential clients. You have to figure out some kind of workaround. So what you do is you come up with, and this is our technique, it's our secret sauce. You figure out, okay, well, these are my ideal clients, so whatever they are. And so I'll give you an example of Red Root Marketing. So my ideal clients are small businesses and entrepreneurs in the North Jersey area and nonprofits in New Jersey, anywhere in New Jersey. And at least these are for my social media marketing services. And okay, so what I start to think about is I think about who are those? What are some good examples of those types of businesses? So I start coming up with a list, and you can, start a database. Really what our community map is, it's a database. So it can be in a Word document, it could be in an Excel spreadsheet, it can be in a notes, on your phone, but it's some kind of way for you to start your research. And what I do is I start with, well, who have been my clients in the past that I've enjoyed working with that have really gotten a lot of value from what we do? And so I write them down. I see where they are online. So where are they on Instagram? Where are they on Facebook, LinkedIn? And then I create a similar audience. So, well, what are some examples of some other businesses that are like-minded, that have similar values, that are in the area, that are in, anywhere in North Jersey? And I start to research them. So I'm researching just in my browser, but then I'm also going in and I'm going on the different platforms. I'm going in Instagram, I'm looking up different hashtags. And the more time you spend on that, figuring out what that community map is, um, the more creative I've found that you get with it, because you kind of go down that rabbit hole. Because then the algorithms on all the platforms start to understand where you're going. So if I start to research on Instagram nonprofits in New Jersey, the more of those that I find and follow, the more they're going to say, oh, okay, hold on. Jessica wants to see more nonprofits in New Jersey. And so they're going to recommend a ton of different accounts. Now, I vet those accounts. I don't just go in and blindly follow everything. I vet them very closely because I don't want to just be following every account like that, because some of them haven't been posted on in years. Some of them are weird. They put up weird stuff. So I'm trying to find high quality accounts to follow. And so what that's going to do is you're going to get on their radar. They're going to say, oh, Red Root Marketing, what are they about? Let me go check them out. Hopefully you'll get a follow. And you might even, from this list that you're creating, I think the ultimate thing to do is create a relationship. It's not just about following them and then starting to interact with their content. It's also about, could this account be a great collaboration for me? Let me DM them and see, do you want to have a phone call? Can we do a Zoom call? Is there some way that we can work together? If there may be a good funnel for you. Um, I work with a lot of chambers of commerces that are finding out about me because I've done talks at different chambers. And so now I follow a lot of chambers, and I'm starting relationships with these chambers because they're bringing me on as a speaker, and I'm adding value to their members. And so so that's a good funnel for me. That's a good way of me getting out what I'm trying to say to a new audience that I didn't have previously. So small businesses is, and so let me just talk a little bit about this visual representation of our community map. This is not the actual tool that we use. Like I said, you can use anything, spreadsheet or a Word document or a PowerPoint or whatever you want. But this is a visual representation of our community map. So you think about yourself as being the center, and then you think about all of the different entities and accounts that can support you and that can be your community. So it's not just, let's say your ideal audience is small businesses. It's not just small businesses. Well, who supports small businesses in the North Jersey area? Well, it could be townships, networking groups, chambers of commerces, governmental agencies, the SBA, Small Business Administration, local media and press, um, community groups. So on Facebook, all those different, small business support groups and things like that. So I want you to be thinking about who else, so not just my customers who need to know about me, but who else needs to know about me to help me amplify my message, who would, I would bring value to them and they would bring value to me, getting in front of each other's audiences. So, and this slide is a little bit about what I just talked about, but it's really a research tool. And it might sound time consuming, but if you think about it, yes, it demands a little bit of time up front, but once you've curated these audiences and you're following better and better accounts online, and you're really strategically thinking about who you need to be following, you're going to see the better engagement on all of your posts. And because the better you curate that, the more they're going to care about what you're offering. And so your engagement will go up just naturally. Um, Again, it's about creating relationships. I've never used social media as a way to just, throw up my content and just have it up there. That's not the only use. It's not just solely for that. It's about creating real life relationships. So for me, it was never nebulous. It was never, because I have a lot of people that come to me and say, it's so abstract. It's out there, and I don't know who's looking at my stuff, and I don't know who I'm talking to. Again, once you've done all of these foundational, um, when all these foundational activities, you're going to see that there's this connection that's being made. So does anyone have any questions about that specifically, the community map?
Nothing in the chat about it.
No? Okay, good. All right. So now I want to talk just a little bit about what I think. You're obviously all creating your pitches, and you'll include what you think is valuable and what the judges need to hear and know about your business. But I just wanted to come up with these couple points because, in my opinion, and as a business owner, this is what I would want to hear from somebody that was pitching their business. So to me, calls to action are really crucial in social media marketing. And what I mean by that is, to me, a call to action is not simply buy my product today, hire me, call me. A call to action can really be anything. Um, but what it does is it gives your post an intention and a direction. I think it's very important to put up posts that um, are directing your audience and letting them know what you would like them to do. So it could be go to my website and read my blog. It could be, um, tag someone below that you think needs to know about this business. It could be share an emoji below to support this cause. It could be, um, say hello to this team member that we're highlighting. And I would urge you also to have about 20% of those posts be salesy. And I know a lot of people shy away from being salesy, but I've had clients, a lot of consulting clients actually, that say to me, um, I never write call me or hear my services, or did you know that you could hire me for these packages, or whatever. And I think that's, you're doing a disservice to your brand, because don't just beat around the bush. You can talk about, oh, here's an inspirational quote and here's this, and tag a friend below, whatever. But if you're not getting to what you're actually selling and you're skirting around that, then you're not going to sell and you're not going to make that connection, because you also have to let your audience know how you can be of service to them. Because at the end of the day, that is what you are there for. But so I urge you to really think about, what is your call to action as a brand, but also in every post. And if your post doesn't have a call to action, then I would rethink that post and think about, what do you want your audience to do with that? So that's kind of the general thinking, and then the kind of specific to your social media posts thinking. Again, think about your audience, and I would be very specific about what demographic your product or service is benefiting. I would think about it, and I would do some type of exercise uh, to let people know. And the hard part, I think, um, and I'm not sure, in general for pitches, but I know for social media marketing, it's very hard for an entrepreneur to get out of their own head. They're so ingrained in what they're doing, and they know the value that they're adding to their customers. But you have to get out of your own head, and you have to get into the head of your clients or your potential clients, and think about, what do they need to hear from you? What service are you providing? What pain point are you solving for them? And you need to not talk in your own jargon and your own words and how you convey what you do. You need to talk and adapt and use the words of what a potential client would be. So that audience work is going to help you do that. Um, we talked already about high quality content, and so what do I mean by high quality content? Um, it can mean many things. So it should be you should always on all of your platforms be posting high quality photos. I think it's a huge turnoff and very unprofessional when businesses put up blurry photos. Um, I think it needs to be high quality. And so, is that, have you created those photos through a photo shoot or with a branding photographer? Um, I think it's especially important if you have a product that you're highlighting. So, if it's food or if it's a product that you're selling. Um, but I think even if you have a service, I think all of your photos should be incredibly high quality. So, there are stock photos that you can use, and there are a lot of stock photo, royalty free stock photo platforms. There's Unsplash and Pexels and Pixabay, and Canva has a lot of stock photos. Um, but I would also shy away from using too many stock photos. I think genuine photos of you, of your product, of your team, I think those are very engaging, and you'll get a lot better engagement than just using, stock photos. And
I
that can
I
evolve
just
over
want to
time.
interrupt you really quickly there because we do actually have somebody on with us who is a branding photographer. And I would just be interested to hear from, I think you pronounce your name Carissa,
Oh
if
yeah.
if you see like a difference from when your clients haven't been using you and then they start using you, if you see any, kind of gain in traction or anything by using those high quality photos.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry, I couldn't start my
Oh, it's
video.
fine.
I have my kids here and they'll be running around. No, I agree. And one of the things that I agree with what Jessica is saying, that stocks photos are great at certain, for certain posts, but using more pictures of yourself, what it does, it helps you build your know, like, and trust factor. It um it just, you connect with people that way when you show pictures of yourself, even behind the scene videos of what you do. It gives a lot of your potential clients, your audience, an idea of what it's like to work with you, your process. So that's one of the things that with using branding photography for your business can really help elevate your business and also help you attract your ideal clients.
That's great. Thank you so much.
You're
And
welcome.
Carissa actually I did a branding photo shoot with her. What was that, Carissa? In end of
January.
January?
Yeah, January.
So a lot of the photos that you're going to see on my social media is from Carissa, and it's
Yeah.
fabulous. I highly recommend working with a branding photographer because um, I do social media all day long for my clients, but also for Red Root Marketing. And the fact that I have high quality photos to share, and I get really inspired by photos. I actually look at photos first and then think about what do I want to talk about in this caption and about my services and about what we do. Um, and so having those beautiful photos from Carissa, I have about, I'd say, 3 or 4 months of content. Um, that I can put up, and it looks branded and professional and fabulous. So that's really important. So that's part of the high quality visual content. But you also obviously want your captions to be very, very high quality. So they need to be well written. They need to have no typos whatsoever. They need to be tight and just well written. And then you want to have high quality hashtags that you're adding in there. And that takes a little bit of research as well. Um, but all of those things come together to make a really high quality post and content calendar.
Jessica, I have one question. If
Yeah,
you don't mind.
tell
I
me,
wanted
Jamil.
to ask. I wanted to ask. Do you recommend which social medias would you recommend for smaller businesses, if there are any that you would recommend?
Yeah, well, so again, that's going to depend on what type of small business it is and where you think your audience is. So, I mean, I personally, if you're asking me today and just like across the board, if I had to really generalize, I'm going to say you can see the most growth and the most connection on Instagram. And I really feel like that's for a wide range of ages as well. It used to skew a lot younger. It actually skews a lot older now. So I think Instagram has many functionalities, and in my opinion, more than the other platforms to grow quicker and to reach more people in a shorter amount of time. I think Facebook for me is it's not very nice to say, but I call it the garbage dump. You know, it's like there's so much junk on it, and it's very very hard for businesses to be seen being if you're not paying to be seen. Now that's obviously for some accounts that have been on there for 10 years and they already had a big um, following, you know, or they just focus their energy on Facebook all day long, they can maybe have some traction on it. But for especially for newer businesses on Facebook, it's like zero engagement. So I think Instagram is still fantastic. I think LinkedIn personally on your personal page can be really great. Twitter is interesting, but it depends on what industry you're in. So, you know, if you're a news outlet, I think it's great. If you're, I work with the Montclair Center Bid. We're very active on Twitter. We just started a couple months ago, really revving it up a little, and it's still not, there's not great momentum, but there's potential there because we're posting a lot. Um, so that depends. It could be very instrumental, but for a lot of industries, Twitter is not going to do it. You know, if you're putting up a couple posts a week, Twitter needs to be kind of an all-day conversation, all day long, you know, and so it's not right for every type of business. So Instagram would kind of be my go-to just because I think it offers so many fantastic
Yeah. Do
opportunities.
you have any thoughts on TikTok? Because I know, like, so I see some videos on TikTok, just like smaller businesses like bakeries, etc.
Mhm.
They'll do like a few second clips and put it up, and it'll get like a lot of traction.
Yeah.
So, what are your opinions on that?
So I think TikTok, I personally haven't used it for any clients, but I know that first of all, just the sheer amount of people that are on it, I think is fabulous. And it's pretty fun and whimsical. So I think if you have that type of business, I also think it's about just having video content or wanting to create video content, even though they're short little clips. Um, it takes a little bit of a different effort than creating, you know, photo posts or even just regular, you know, IGTV or video posts. But I think absolutely for certain businesses, I think if you have that inclination and you're like, let's just do it, we're going to make these clips and we're going to play around with it. I think it could be really beneficial. Um, if you don't want to curate your TikTok, and start something from scratch and you're already on Instagram, they do have the reels that they copied off of TikTok. And right now, because they're favoring the reels because they want people to be using them, um, that's the algorithm kicks that into high gear. So if you're doing reels, we start doing for our clients one reel a week just to see. And it's like the engagement's incredible and the reach is incredible. So if you don't want to start something from scratch, try the reels and see if you can kind of get some traction on that. Those are kind of fun. But obviously TikTok, it's like that's all there is. You know, Instagram's just copying um, TikTok. But yeah, I think it could be really, really a great outlet for certain. And like you said, like bakeries or something that has maybe a little bit of a visual product or something fun. Um, So again, that would depend on the industry, but I think it's absolutely something to look into.
Thank you. Thank you for the insight.
Yeah, sure. Liz, how are we? We're good on time, or?
Sorry, I was on mute. I mean, we're at an hour, so we
Okay.
might, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is actually just a slide that I wanted everyone who's doing the pitch competition to have. I found these on Sprout Social, and I just thought it was really interesting, why consumers follow brands on social media, and then how marketers use their insights from their social platforms, because I think that's something that you don't want to neglect. And I would actually add that into your pitch. We get a lot of fabulous insights. Each platform has really bulked up the amount of information that you can get on individual posts and how they perform and the reach and the views and the likes. And you can really, at the end of the month or the end of the week, look at what posts are doing really well, and you want to emulate those types of posts. And then the ones that fall flat, you figure out, well, did it fall flat because of the time I posted it? Did it fall flat because it's of interest to nobody? It gives you a lot of really great insights. And it also can tell you a little bit about your audience. What are they craving? What are they looking to get from you, to learn from you? So I wasn't going to go through these graphics, but I wanted everyone to have them so they could really break it down and maybe use some of this language in their pitch to really convey, why are they making social media marketing a priority in their startup? I think you have to make the case for it because, you really just have two choices. You can either do your social media marketing yourself and keep it in-house, and that's time consuming. And maybe you have someone that you're paying to do just that, then that can be expensive. Or you have an agency do it for you, and that's also, a cost. So I think you have to make a case for why you're going to prioritize your social media marketing, and then justify that cost and time and effort. I think you want to work that in, and I think it's a really important thing. Now, your social media marketing should be a nice chunk of your marketing, but don't forget to talk about it shouldn't be your entire marketing strategy, in my opinion. And again, I'm really generalizing across all industries and all types of businesses. For some businesses, they only do social media marketing, and that's super effective and lucrative. Great. But most businesses, you want to have a little bit of a 360 approach to your marketing. It's not just all about you know putting stuff online. How else are you connecting with potential customers? So but I do think, again, like some of these statistics can be really interesting, and you can integrate that into what you're going to talk about and how you're going to integrate that into your, talking about your social media marketing. So that's on my end. I have all my contact information here. I urge you to all, get in touch with me if you have other questions. Go to my website. Please follow me on social media. I'm pretty active on all of these platforms, but Instagram's my favorite, and LinkedIn. So please link in with me. And I'd love if you already started your startup's social media account. I'd share them with me. I'd love to follow them and see what you're doing with them.
Perfect. Does anybody else, specifically have questions for Jessica around how to pitch their social media marketing or how to incorporate it into their pitch, or just any other questions? Just feel free to chime in. Otherwise, I did want to make one other point about, where you said social media is part of a larger marketing strategy, right? In most cases. And I think that goes back to knowing your audience, right? You have to know your community, know your audience, and know where they're interacting, right? So are they big television watchers? Are they really primarily online and on, social media, then that should drive your strategy. So it all goes back to knowing your audience. That is really at the core of all of this. So
And understanding them, and what do they care about in their community? What groups, what businesses, what nonprofits, do they volunteer at? What do they care about? Because that will give you insight into them and to what they're looking for.
absolutely.
Jessica, if you want to just answer one more question, I wanted to
Yeah.
ask, like, because you've been doing this for a very long time, so what are some of the mistakes you've run into pretty early when you started, and how did you go about fixing those mistakes?
I'd made so many mistakes, so I don't know if you want to be more specific. But I mean, do you have anything in particular?
Nothing
Because
in particular, yeah, nothing in
I
particular,
mean,
but like just general,
just
anything.
starting a company, you mean?
Yeah, that's fine.
So a couple things that I did, that is such a great question. I actually like to talk about it because it's such a good experience to start a business and to make a lot of mistakes and to be okay with making those mistakes. I think you have to cut yourself a lot of slack. Um, but a couple things. So the first thing was I didn't really have a business plan. Like I said before, I was really flying by the seat of my pants. So it worked out well in the end, but I do think getting someone to help me write down my business plan and figure out, because instead I just spent, maybe 2 or 3 years figuring out what my business plan was instead of just having it. So that would have been helpful to have someone help me, or to just learn how to do it. The second thing was and maybe this is part of starting a business, but I did anything for anyone. So I was just so happy when people would pay me money. And so I took on all sorts of jobs, and a lot of them didn't have anything to do with social media marketing. I mean, my husband would ask me, he's like, why are you looking for your client's password and like trying to help them figure that out? I mean, I would spend time on, one of my clients had lost their like PayPal password, and I was online with, it's like I was doing everything because I'm like, well, they're paying me. So, and I was kind of acting as an admin. But that being said, I actually was able to zone in on what I was good at and then what I didn't want to do. Um, and I dropped all the stuff I didn't want to do anymore. I used to do websites, and I'm not a website builder, but I would build them on Squarespace. And because a lot of people would come to me and say, I need social media and I need a website. I have no online presence. And I'm like, well, here's a website company that can help you. And they're like, no, it's too expensive. Can you just do one for me? So I'm like, okay, and it's really not what I was good at. And I made a couple okay looking, websites. I mean, it was with templates and all that. But it's not what I like doing. It's not what I was good at. Other people do it much better. Um, but I do believe that kind of experimentation, in the end, it benefited me, but it took me a really, really, really long time. I don't think it needs to take that long to get where you're going. Um, I really took my sweet old time getting to where I needed to be, and where it really kicked in, like, this is what I care about. This is my philosophy. This is the value that me and my team can add. So, those were kind of the early mistakes. Another mistake I made was undervaluing what I was doing and undercharging. Um, Now, I think at the beginning of your business, I think that's a common mistake to make. I didn't have confidence in what I was doing. I wouldn't even for a while, I wouldn't even admit that this is what I was doing. Um, I would, people would hire me and I would say, okay, well, I don't really do this, but I'll do it for you. And so what I was doing, I was under promising, I was under charging, and then I didn't feel the pressure because I'm like, well, they're not really, they're not paying that much. And so if I don't do a good job, I think it was this failure, it was this fear of failure, which is linked to fear of success as well. I didn't like that feeling of like, if I'm charging someone a lot of money, they're going to expect a lot from me. It took me many years to get over that. And it was through a lot of conversations with friends who are also entrepreneurs. And I also worked with a business coach, I'd say, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. And that was such a fabulous experience because it was really like therapy. Um, I I had a lot of hangups that I didn't realize, and just saying them out loud and having someone call me out on them um, was very uh, interesting, and it kind of jolted me awake. And I'm like, okay, this is why I've reached a wall and a plateau, and I can't grow my business anymore because I was holding myself back. You know, I was undervaluing myself and what I had to offer. And I think that's really important to have confidence in what you do and have confidence in what you're offering to your clients. And um, I think one way of helping me deal with that was, I don't need to be the agency for everybody. I have a very niche type of clientele. We're not automated. We're not necessarily, um, we're not the cheapest on the block. We're not the most expensive. I think we're somewhere in the middle, but we offer really, really good value. But our philosophy is very specific. And if you don't buy into our philosophy, then we're not the right fit for you. And there are a lot of agencies out there. So you can pick and choose. And I think that's been a real lesson as well. Um, Choosing clients that are the right fit. I used to just, like I said, I'd let anybody hire me, and it wasn't always a good fit. And I forced it because I'm like, well, they want to hire me. What am I going to do? Turn down a client? Um, I'm very adamant today. I've grown to a place where I'm very serious about only bringing on clients who see our vision and where we want to go with them, and vice versa, that we're a good fit for each other, that they value us and we value them and what they do. So I think those are really kind of my life lessons, my entrepreneur lessons. And like I said, I hope you get there a lot quicker than I do because I've taken my sweet old time, but
Thank-
it's been a fun ride. It
Yeah.
is always interesting, the life of an entrepreneur,
Clarifying that, yeah. It's
you
very
know?
interesting to get just the experience of somebody that's, already did it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can always ask me any other questions. Please feel free. I put my email in the chat as well. But hopefully, Liz, I don't know, I'll send you the PDF of the presentation. You can send it out, or just whatever you want to send, my contact info.
Yeah, I'll send the PDF of this presentation and your contact info so people can reach out to you directly.
Okay, perfect. And you can go to redrootmarketing.com. That's easy to remember. And my contact info is on there as well. And there is a coupon code on that PDF that you'll receive. I do have an online course where you can learn all about, social. It's called Social Media Marketing Made Simple, and it's 14 very short videos that are really, kind of easy to listen to and very in depth, with 5 downloadable templates of the tools that we use for our very own clients. So, and the coupon code, I believe, is 25% off. It's $99, and then you get 25% off of that with the code.
So I'll include the code as well.
Yep, and I think it's on the last slide. So,
Okay,
but you can include that in the email and all that information. But please feel free to get in touch if you have any questions. And for those of you doing your pitch, good luck. I'll be rooting for you.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Jessica. We just always love talking to you. It's so great to hear from somebody who knows so much about social media marketing, but also is a true entrepreneur and in the trenches. So
Yep.
we always appreciate your perspective. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me.
All right.
Give a little tip.
Sorry?
Could I give the members a little tip?
Oh, sure.
If there's been some links that you want to save in the chat, if you go to the chat box down the right-hand corner, you'll see 3 dots. click on the three dots and you can save the chat to your own computer.
Yep, that's a good tip.
Yes, thank you.
I'm sure you use Meetup a lot and Zoom a lot, so that's a useful.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Nick.
You're welcome.
All right. Thanks everybody for joining us. And again, we look forward to having everybody. We have some more workshops coming up on the horizon. So I'll send you guys the link to that as well. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
You
Bye.
too. Thank you.